Hi, I'm Tony Mathews from Brock Urban Projects. I'll be on next week's edition of Open House with Greg Moulton. I hope you can join me. I look forward to talking to you then.
Brocky, suburb Adelaide, you're absolutely right. Isn't it a magnificent place to live?
Yes, it is, and I think that was a great expose of just how many fabulous spots there are in Adelaide to enjoy yourself, and up and down North Terrace with the beautiful facilities. It's just a wonderful spot to live.
My agent, Tony Mathews, welcome.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Tony from Brock Urban.
Urban Projects, that's right.
Give us a little bit of a snapshot of your career.
Oh, look, my career, I started in real estate. I reckon when God made the dinosaurs. Back in 1984, I started in real estate, just selling vacant land up in Bellevue Heights in the hills. Spent a couple of years there with the local agent, one of the little boutique agents up there. Then went to Miles Pearce for 5 years after that.
Miles Pearce, I remember the name.
Yes, yep. He was very successful back in those days. Then I went from there to a group called Kinsman, who were developers and agents. We looked after projects like Garden East in the city on the old East End markets.
Magnificent.
From there down to Holdfast Shores. Moving on from there, I started my own company and had that for 6 years. Did the brewery apartments at Kent Town, the Hurdle East apartments, the Pier Hotel down at Glenelg for urban projects, and a variety of things in between. We did anything really from 2 or 3 townhouses up to 200 apartments. So
it's fair to say, Tony, that your experience goes from the absolute grassroots all the way through to some of the best properties that Adelaide's ever sold.
I think so.
And all price ranges too, Tony.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, we've sold. I remember in the old days selling apartments for $110,000, $120,000. I think the most expensive I've sold is around $3 million at the moment.
There we go.
But we've got things we're working on which will set some new records in Adelaide in the near future with prices that could push up to $6 million for an apartment.
Let's just lead on, mate. So the market, how is it performing? The apartment market traditionally seems to ebb and flow a little bit. How are we at the moment?
Look, at the moment we're probably flowing a little bit rather than ebbing. We started off this calendar year, January, started off with a real bang, and I think people probably with the GFC had just had a guts full by Christmas last year and then decided to come out in the new year with a positive attitude. Had a great January. February, March were okay, but not brilliant. April picked up again. May went quiet, and we finished with a great June.
It's like farming, isn't it?
It is.
Hey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's interesting, I think, also that with the global financial crisis last year and the year before, people were actually, developers, malts were delaying starting projects, so they had approvals and things like that. So what's happened is that there's a lag effect. There's not as many available, or haven't been, but now it's starting to come back again. Developers are actually going ahead with the projects and starting again, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, look, we're really busy at the moment. We've got
it's nice to hear you're busy, Tony.
Yeah,
Keep away from the coffee machine at work.
Yeah, well, I don't get down there very often at all anymore. So.
Too busy playing, basketball or volleyball?
Volleyball, mate, volleyball, yeah. That's
Sorry,
right.
mate, we interrupted.
That's right. No, look, we are busy at the moment. As Michael said, there's a lot of developers that have held back on projects, just waiting to see what was going to happen with the GFC and the washout on that. New projects, we've had a few new projects come to the market in the last couple of months, and we've probably got 6 or 8 really major, significant projects we're working on at the moment, which should come through probably in the next 6 to 12 months.
Fantastic. Yep. Is it fair to say that the banks held up some of those projects? Were developers finding it hard to find the finance for
Yeah, that's a pretty good take on it. I think there's a lot of projects where Say you had a $50 million development, the developer needed $30 million to fund the project. The banks halfway through it might have just got in touch with the developer and said, look, we need another $5 million in cash, otherwise you'd
So
stop.
That means you have to go out there and sell another $5 million off the plan?
Either that,
which is hard, but also the people who are buying them are finding it's hard to get their finance as well. So it's a double of whammy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's either that or the developer himself has to tip in another $5 million in cash, which can be pretty difficult if you're just asked to come up with $5 million. But that seems to be freeing up a little bit at the moment. The confidence from the buyers is still there. I think Adelaide, because we're not sort of that stellar performers like, say, Gold Coast, Sydney, or whatever, we don't have the really huge peaks, and we don't have the really deep troughs. So we just sort of bubble along, and even through the crisis, our sales rates dropped a little bit, and the prices came back, maybe 10% or something, but nothing drastic.
Tony, we've got a segment called You Want, and I've got a fair idea that a few people out here will want this particular product. It's the property of the week, the Apartments.
Yep.
Where are they located?
They're located in Weymouth Street, 102 Weymouth Street, which is really right on the edge of the CBD. So to walk from there, if you're going up to King William Street, if you know Weymouth Street, on your way you could drop into George's for a cup of coffee.
George's, then the Union.
And you've got the Marble Bar
Marble
across
Bar.
the road.
That's
Quite
right.
a location.
It's not a bad spot to live. So from King William Street, you're really maybe 1.5 blocks out, 200 metres away from King William Street.
Now, the demand for those, I understand, has been fantastic. Could you give us an idea of the sales rate, the mix of them, because I understand there's some public housing and some individual investments, price ranges, and why they've gone so well?
Okay. This project's come about. It's our client on this one is the Department of Families and Communities, so it's a state government project.
Under Housing SA?
Yes, and the funding for that is part of the stimulus package from the federal government. So to clear out problems with the GFC, the federal government came out with a range of stimulus packages. This particular project, which I think we've probably got an image on the screen or had one on the screen.
There they are, Tony, looking magnificent.
It's a great looking building. It's a 16-storey building, but as Michael said, it's a mix of housing types. It's social housing as well as private ownership. It's only the second time this has been done in Australia as far as we know. There's one in Western Australia and this is the first one in South Australia. But in the 16 buildings, well, essentially there's two buildings. There's a 16-storey building, which is the main tower that you can see, and then a smaller 3-storey building. Now, in the 16 storeys, there's 4 different product types or ownership types. There's general market apartments, which is like you or I would go along and buy. Then there's apartments that are available under the affordable housing program, which is for people that don't perhaps earn a big enough income to be able to afford that type of property. Then there's apartments that will be leased out under the NRAS or the National Rental Affordability Scheme. So an investor will come in, somebody like Unity Housing or somebody like that, buy a quarter of the building. They'll then rent that out, and then the government will give them subsidies on the rent, so they can afford to put people in good quality apartments who perhaps just can't quite afford a city rent.
Right.
And then there's some social housing, like the Housing SA or DFC clients that, or typically housing trust type tenants.
That's a huge mixed bag. Has it been a challenge, Tony? What's the reaction from the general public?
Well, at the start when we took the job on, we had some market research and we felt there might be some apprehension from the public. And from some parts of the buying market there, some people said, look, I don't want to live in there with those so many varied uses.
Mixes,
However, we went to the market on that, I think, around the middle of March.
And price range?
Price ranges, because we had the affordable product in there, they started around the high 100s, 195
High 100s?
for a one-bedroom apartment.
Right.
The two-bedroom apartments up on the higher levels for the general market apartments were up to about $425,000. And we've got 2 3-bedders in there at $695 and $675, I think, or $685. Now, 54 of those apartments, or half the building, were put on the market to sell either under the affordable housing program or general market. We sold those in less than 2 months.
Oh.
We've got 8 left out of 54.
Fantastic.
So you sold over 46 or
46
so apartments in 2 or 3 months. Wow.
Tony, when you think about it, it's actually fantastic what they're trying to achieve in there.
Oh, it is.
Because the location is awesome, your prices are fantastic, and the public's responded really positively.
Very, very well.
A success story.
It's a great success story.
Done.
We've got, I think we had 400 people register interest when we first went to the market on that. And we are working on another project like this. I can't give you any details yet. We haven't been approved yet. We haven't got the go-ahead to release details.
No one's watching.
That's right. It is. It's, but I think our database now, we're up to nearly 700 people that have registered interest in this next project. So there's clear demand from people that qualify under the affordable housing program because they want to get into ownership, but can't quite afford to, want to be in the city. But there's really good acceptance from the general market apartment to that mixed use of ownership types in the building. Which
It's
is
a great incentive by the government, isn't it? So it's basically federally funded, did you say?
The federal government are putting up the stimulus funding for it, but the affordable housing program is a local Australian government.
Apartments, Tony Mathews, and if people want to find out more about them, how do they?
Look, there's a couple of ways. We can go straight to the web and search Uno Apartments at unoapartments.com.au. You can call Brock Urban Projects, and either myself or David Buenfeld will be able to help you out on that.
Phone number there, Tony?
8203
And your email address?
Yeah, tmatthews@brockurbanprojects.com.au. But in the email address, it's Mathews with 1 T.
1 T only. Tony Mathews.
Couldn't afford the extra T.
That's all right. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You do a fantastic job for us. Brocky described you as the guru of apartments. We'd have to agree with that.
Well, I think if you're around long enough, the rest die out. Outlive your competition. But I mean, South Australia's a great market because it's not like if you go to. We were just up at the Gold Coast for our conference, which you're obviously up there, and we had a look around there. And I think the good thing about South Australia being a smaller market is the developers that are here are generally here to stay. They've got a good reputation, they've got history and so on. They're not sort of coming and going. They don't. We just have a better state to work in. So.
Good on you, Tony.
Tony Mathews, all the way from Adelaide, talking about apartments in Adelaide. We're after the break. We're back with Will Chapman.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed my section on Open House today. If you'd like any more information on the Uno Apartments or Vero Apartments, please call me on 0411 751 828 or email tmatthews@brockurbanprojects.com.au. Thank you.